once again. Hads, how are you?
Mate, it's good to have the captain back. I know you were you're on a bigger budget than everyone else. You're up in the penthouse on the Gold Coast with the Candy Man, enjoying the enjoying some time off. But what a 24 hours it's been.
Yeah, a bit to talk about. So we've got it in the rear vision mirror. Over 24 hours ago, Australia getting handed a pretty hefty defeat first up, even though it could have looked a bit better at the Cricket World Cup. And don't forget, we're covering everything here on Willow Talk with reviews straight after Aussie games of the World Cup, and then the extended version of the podcast, the regular version of the podcast twice a week, like we're doing right now. We've got a special guest from News Corp, cricket writer Ben Horne. Benny, how are things, mate?
Very good, guys. Thanks for having me in.
Are things better than what Andrew McDonald and co have to consider after that defeat in Chennai against India?
Yeah, look, I mean, the result itself, I suppose they lost to the tournament favourite, so it's not the end of the world from that point of view. But I think it did expose some issues that Australia have that aren't going to be easily fixed. And the top of the list is only having one spinner. It's caused an imbalance in the side. The injury to Ashton Agar and Travis Head's injury has put pressure on the rest of the squad. They only had 13 players to choose from last night. So I think that's going to be an ongoing issue.
It's a conundrum, isn't it, Hads? Because, as Benny says, 15's light for the size of this World Cup to start with. But you're starting the tournament with 13, and your options, you're almost cornered with your selection straight away. And then you get a wicket like we got for the India match, Chennai. Are they all going to turn like that? Potentially. Who knows? Who knows what the curators are going to do?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that Australia have gone into the World Cup with a pace mindset. And that's worked in the past for different teams. I've seen South Africa do it in the past where you own the stumps, you use the up and down bounce. And when we had the opportunity to have India 4 for 20, everything was looking rosy. It's just the going into the tournament without that option. We're seeing India play with 3 fast bowlers, and they've got 3 world-class fast bowlers. That they've left one out. Hardik Pandya gives them the balance. We've got that in our team as well. We've got a couple of all-rounders. But not to have the option to play the second spinner, I think something I hope doesn't come back to bite us at the back end of the tournament.
But would it have mattered against India? That's the thing. Like it was going well, 3 for 2 and all of that.
Yeah, and look, I think you have to say that Australia needed more than 200 on the board. I mean, I think to start with, they were short in the run scoring department, and the middle order is a concern. To go from 2 for 110 to then being bowled out for less than 200, that was the starting point of the issues last night. But if Mitchell Marsh takes that catch, I think the result is probably different.
I can't see us winning the World Cup if we don't get off to flyers. Personally, that's our only way, because then, like we've seen it when Australia played a little bilateral series. I think it was early in the year or last year, and they were they were chasing 110 and they got it in 10 overs. That style, Hads. I can't see us eking our way to 280, 300 and getting there. And being okay with that. They've got to blow teams away, in my opinion.
Well,
yourself?
You're going to have to play the situation. If you look at the way the game panned out, the game was set up for Marnus and Steve Smith just to control those middle overs. You have to bat a bit like Test cricket, go at 4 and 5 and over. And if you get to 240, you win that game. There's going to be moments during the World Cup where you get a really good surface. Then we've got the power to take it on and get the 350.
Or do a South Africa and go further
400. They're doing that as well as anyone in the world. But you've got to pick your situation. Last night we fell 30 short with the bat, and Steve Smith and Marnus are picked for that role. That's their role, to own it. You got your power at the end. So I think we're set up fine. It's only the first game of the tournament. I know we're talking about the spinners. I think our fast bowlers can play a role, but it was a game where you can sit back and you can pick apart and you think that's probably one that got away. Not that India, yes, they played well, but it's a game that got away from us.
Luck now? What does that throw up usually?
Well,
it's the pitch report, Tony Gregg.
Well, the pitch report is they've relayed it. So it's a new surface. So I know during the IPL it did some interesting things. So they've relayed that surface. And we've got to get straight back on the horse and play a South African team that, I tell you what, since they were down 2-0 from Australia, they've done nothing wrong. Their power in that middle overs are as good as anyone in the world.
They've found some form, absolutely. Can you see a mid-tournament twist from Australia? If you get, 4 matches in and they go, you know what, we've stuffed this, Travis, take care of yourself. We'll bring someone else
absolutely. I mean, I wrote a comment piece yesterday saying that if Marcus Stoinis can't get himself fit for this game against South Africa, I think they have to seriously consider making a call there. Obviously, you can only replace injured players. You can't just replace players willy-nilly. You need to have a reason. Marcus Stoinis missed the first game with a hamstring. In the 2019 World Cup, they carried Stoinis through the whole tournament, and unfortunately, he couldn't get himself right, and it was had a big impact on Australia's chances. And with the decision they've made on Head, as harsh as that is on Stoinis, it does put pressure on his, on when he comes back. I just don't think they can wait indefinitely for him to be right. If he's fit, he is in the best 11, and Australia will be better if Stoinis is in the lineup. But he's only good to them if he's fit, and if he can't get up for the game against South Africa, I would seriously look at bringing in Nathan Lyon, or if you're worried about where he's at with his recovery, another spinner.
He sent the text, didn't he, Nathan? Have you seen him? He lives near to you.
Yeah,
across
I've seen
the
him
river
hobbling
there.
around the road. I think he's making a comeback next week in grade cricket for Northern Districts. But you've got young Sanger over there. He did well, really well, actually, in the last one-day game against India. And he bowls differently to Zampa, so he could complement the squad. Or you got Murphy if you want another finger spinner. But, yeah, they've got some decisions to make. It's the first game of the tournament. I'm comfortable with the team they went in with. If they had take that catch, we're not having these conversations. It's 4 for 20. They've decided to go on with pace bowling. That's their strength. Is the spinner coming in a better bowler than the third quick? That's a question. You can't just play a spinner because you think he's going to make a difference.
And that is one of the biggest questions. And I don't expect an answer from you guys because it's an absolute hypothetical if we go down that path. But who is the third quick? Who are the first two that keep? Like, that is such a rough call on the one, if they decide to go two quicks, and the key word in this sentence is if.
Yeah.
But if they decide to go with two quicks, who misses out of those three?
Well, I mean, the only reason it's a complicated question is because Pat Cummins is the captain. But to me, it's at this stage, we've only had one game of the tournament, but I would have said this leading into the tournament based on their records and how they've gone over the last couple of years. But I would have Hazelwood and Mitchell Stark as the top two seeds.
Massive call.
Well, they're your two best fast bowlers. You've got Steve Smith to captain if he has to. So, but I think Australia are comfortable with their squad. I think they're comfortable with the three fast bowlers. I think they found out a little bit yesterday because Marcus Stoinis' injury. I think if he's right, he comes into that middle order, he plays a role with his slower balls. And as I say, they take their chances. We've got a different conversation going on.
And the point I was making, like, it sounds harsh on Stoinis because by all accounts, it's not serious. He should be back soon. But I guess I'm just talking generally, like with the imbalance they've got in the squad with only one spinner. I just think if there's any fitness issue through the World Cup, they have to be ruthless about it. Because even though I would have Marcus Stoinis as in our best 11, like I'd have Mitchell Marsh, Marcus Stoinis as the automatic all-rounders you'd pick. But they do have Sean Abbott. They do have Cameron Green. They've got depth in that area. Where they don't have depth is there's no second spinner. Yeah. And same goes with Travis Head. If they can't be sure that he's back in the middle part of the tournament, then, yeah.
Who'd be a selector? Hads? Who'd be a selector?
Well, it's the thing about Marcus Stoinis. He's in the 11. He's in our best 11. But because the squad is the way it's at the moment, what you got to do now is you just got to push him. You got to say, we need you right for this game. If he breaks down, that's disappointing, and he misses the World Cup. Yep. But with so many injuries, you're already carrying one in, and then you've got a decision to make. So, yeah, a bit of luck he's right for this game against South Africa. We'll need his power hitting at the back end of the game. So they've got some decisions to make.
Just a quick one on India. We touched on it yesterday in the World Cup edition, straight after the match Hads. But, I mean, what more do India have to give? Probably, obviously, top of the order. They're not going to be 3 for 2 in many games. But I felt like watching it, I don't reckon they could have got more out of their bowling unit. And they did restrict Australia to 200. But on another day, even though they bowled that well, does the opposition still get 260, 270 and make life difficult? What I'm trying to say is it looks great for India, but is it that great?
Well, I think if you look at India's squad, they've got all bases covered. And we've seen that in this game because they had Mohammad Shami sitting on the sideline. He's as good as any new ball bowler in this competition. They brought Ashwin in, who wasn't even in the original squad. They picked him for this exact moment. So I think India have got all bases covered. They got Rispin, they got Jadeja, who bowled during the middle. And there's a lot of talk leading into the tournament about Jadeja's spot in the team. He's had a lean 12 months, but come the big events, he owned those middle overs. And for those exact wickets we got against India versus Australia. But I think they're well balanced. The only thing that'll hinder them is the pressure of a World Cup event at home. They haven't been great in World Cup events since 2011. Can they handle the pressure as the tournament goes on?
Yeah, I get the feeling this is a bit different with how experienced they all are. Like they don't have guys that are learning on the job, if you know what I mean. They all the IPL experience with all those guys. They're key guys I'm talking about. There's not a lot of unknowns there.
Yeah, no, they look very good to me. And, the win against Australia will be a huge confidence booster because, as you say, there's a huge amount of pressure being the home team, especially when you're India. But getting that win against Australia will do them the world of good, and they can sort of build into the tournament now. And Shubman Gill was a big loss for them as well in that game. So you get him back and they look even better.